were singing first.
Are you sure?
I think so. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sam Jose Wine Talk. I'm Sam, and this is
Jose.
As you know, welcome, and we're happy to have you here with us this evening. We'll get a couple of minutes, or well, a minute or two here so people can join us. But tonight, we've got a great wine that we're going to pair with some great stories from when we worked at the theme parks. We don't currently work at the theme parks anymore, but...
No. Hi, Kim.
Kim, we got Kim, and we've got Kim's favorite wine. So I think now may be a good time to introduce our wine of tonight. Kim does already know what we're drinking because we put a picture of it up. So tonight we're going to enjoy the Petite. Here's the label for you, so you can get a look at that. The Petite. This is from the Michael David Winery. They have such great labels on theirs, if you can see that. You've got the two elephants on this particular label, which kind of helps to explain the wine itself. So it's the big flavor of the wine, which is why they went with the elephant, from what I read up about it, because I did a little research.
Hey, Mauricio.
Hey, Mauricio. Now, I do like this wine. I like elephants. So elephants are my spirit animal. An elephant never forgets, except sometimes I do. But we're going to go ahead and pour this wine.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Denise. Welcome.
Just saying hi for everybody's back.
Will you hold your glass while I pour?
Okay.
I'm having some issues here with this aerator.
Nothing new.
So as you can see, you've got some nice, rich colors there. Deep purple. That's a very deep, rich color.
Look at that.
Nice, deep, rich color. You gotta love that. Look at that.
So pretty.
So if you're enjoying an adult beverage with us, go ahead and get that out. Go ahead and write a comment. Let us know what you're drinking this evening. If you don't have an adult beverage, that's okay as well. For those of you that are just joining us, we are enjoying this Petite from the Michael David Winery. A little bit of information on this particular wine, not white wine. This is a Petite Syrah. It's an 85% blend of a Petite Syrah with another grape called the Petit Verdot, which is a French varietal. Now, it's only 15% of that Verdot grape because it adds some tannic body to the wine. Really, really makes it very strong. So we've got some, it has some great notes, fruit forward a little bit. Let's take a sniff at it. Put your nose in your bowl. A little bit of vanilla there.
I was supposed to do that? I already drank it.
Oh.
I mean, it's good.
It's got a nice smoky finish. A long, dry smoky finish. Rich aromas. This is something that would pair really good with like a steak or a really good burger,
looks
too.
Like Mondays are like wine nights because everybody's drinking wine today.
And Malbec. Mauricio's got a nice Malbec.
Wes has a Cabernet Sauvignon. A New York
dry pepper red. Ooh, peppery red. Nice. So it looks like everybody's got their drink. We are enjoying the Petite from the Michael David Winery. It is a very good wine. If you like dry red wines, this is definitely one I would recommend. We've had it before. And their labels are fun. All their wines are pretty enjoyable. So now that we've got our drinks, we're going to go ahead and jump into some story time. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Doesn't matter. I mean, I give you a hard time all the time, but it's not like...
Jose doesn't... He may seem more quiet on this, but he's a talker. And he'll talk your ear off.
Wes, the word petite, it just means a grape. It's a smaller grape, so it's not a big grape.
They're small bunch grapes.
And they're all bunched up together. So... but they do have a lot of flavor in it.
They do, yeah. It's a very rich, very bold flavor. You got the smoky finish, like I said, some vanilla, and it's very fruit forward. But let's get into the story times. I'm going to let Jose start since I talked about the wine.
All right. So first story. How many stories are we doing today?
2 each.
Okay.
Oh man.
Making me think. Okay. So first one. Let's talk about my time. Working at Spider-Man. Well, let's just talk about my time working at Spider-Man.
And where is Where's this great attraction as far as
This
parks
great
go?
attraction is located at Universal Studios Islands of Adventures. It was one of the first attractions to actually implement the moving 3D. So it's not just a stationary theater style, the whole entire scene actually moves with you. So it's really neat when you're in a vehicle that's not moving and the whole entire screen is kind of warping in front of you.
And that technology was new for that ride when they rolled
It
it
was
out,
the
right?
first one with it, yeah.
Yeah.
They were the
So
ones that were able to implement that. So that's why I love that attraction. Will always be one of my favorite ones because it was the original to come up with that kind of technology. So that's kind of cool.
and then, yeah, and after they upgraded the video,
Oh, it's even better now.
it's still. I mean, the ride's almost what 20 years old over. It's over. It's 25 years old now, and it still holds up today. I mean, how many theme park attractions? Really good ones hold up. Like you got Haunted Mansion that holds up, Pirates holds up, Space Mountain holds up. Well, maybe not the track layout, but the experience. And then you got Spider-Man. It's still holding up. That's great.
So one of the things that we did as an incentive that they always do, they like to throw little parties or get-togethers or pizza days, you know, the usual theme park things that they have. But one of them that we were actually able to work on and get everything approved was, sorry, Rocky's licking himself. So one of the things that we were able to get approved was to actually go ride the Mummy over at the park right next door to Islands of Adventures, which is Universal Studios, with the lights on.
Nice.
Which was really interesting because, you know, of course, the Mummy is a dark coaster. You can't really see much except for all the special effects that they have. But with the lights on, it kind of creates a whole entire new coaster. It was completely different. At least to me it was. And some of the cool things about it is, like, fun fact, if you're ever stuck on the ride or, you know, something happens and you're stuck there, they turn on the lights, look up, and you can see the Kong tracks that are still remaining up on the top on the ceiling.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that they hadn't gutted it completely.
No, it's
That's
still
cool.
up there because it costs more money to take it down than to just leave it there.
Yeah, if it's not going to bother anything, why move it?
So it's just, you can see part of it and parts. They did take some of the parts out, like sections of it, but most of it is still up there, so you can see where the vehicles were actually gone. And it's just really interesting to see different special effects that they use on that coaster as well, which you don't really get to see with the lights off and, you know, with all the special lighting that they use. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, that was one of the fun things that we did.
Well, I'm going to dive into a breakdown story.
Oh, jeez.
Coaster breakdown. So dramatic.
I thought it was you being down, like being dramatic. I'm like,
oh, no, I didn't break down. I mean, I've had
bring up the little
breakdowns,
violin.
but let's be real, I'm not breaking down at work. I'm going to go back to my Disney days. I've worked at all of the major theme parks in Orlando at one point in my career. And one of those locations that I worked in at Disney, I did a little bit of everything. I worked in attractions, entertainment, several different attractions. Space Mountain, Rock and Roller Coaster, was a conductor on the train. I did the youth education series, which are the tour groups for the education.
You get it, Sam. You worked everywhere.
I did a lot of stuff. I get it. Okay. But I'm going to rewind a little bit to Rock and Roller Coaster. And I only worked at Rock and Roller Coaster briefly, a few months. I was in transition right before I went seasonal and went to finish my degree up in Illinois. But the short time I was there, and the attraction has been changed since then as far as the operational standpoint of it. But at the time, we had a failure to launch pretty much. So if you've been on Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios, it has a launch sequence which launches you from 0 to 60 miles an hour in like 3.8 seconds, or like 3 seconds pretty much. And as you go through this launch, it then goes right into an inversion at the end of the launch sequence. And the launch,
one of my favorite ones.
I know, and the launch is done by magnet. It's a catapult that basically pulls the train, and the catapult is driven by linear induction motors or magnets that pull it along the track. So if the train launches, there are brakes right before the inversion. So if something were to happen and the ride needed to stop before the train goes into gravity, as they call it, then they can stop that train immediately if that's an emergency stop or something like that. Well, if by chance we had any issues with people who may have put their arms through the center of the restraint or something like that, we would have to stop that launch. And I was at load, so I was checking lap bars or the restraints, and we get a call over, and we're loading a limo and or one of the ride trains, and we get a call over the PA, and the person in the ride tower with all of the cameras said, hey, we had certain codes for it, but there was someone in the limo that was about to launch, and this girl kept putting her hands through the middle of the restraint. And so the procedures for this, if you're looking in the camera and you see someone put their arms through the restraint other than holding it around like you should, then you dispatch inhibit so that train's not going anywhere. And then the other load person, because there's one on either side of the limo, they went over and they talked to the little girl and said, hey, make sure your hands are on the outside. You won't be, we'll have to stop this ride if you put your hands through the middle. And so then the girl comes back, and I'm on the other side of the track, so I can't go over to the train. And the girl comes back, and then all of a sudden we get another announcement. The girl had done it again. So the girl goes up, and she's like, and you see her talking to the girl, and she's like, you got to put your hands around the outside. You can't put them in the middle, And sure enough, right as that limo was launching, the person in tower, and it was all on camera and video, and so they were able to go back and show the girl the picture, but she had to e-stop the attraction right as that limo got launched. And so that train went from 0 to 60 miles an hour and then stopped instantly. It's like a car accident for everybody in that train. So it's not something that you do lightly. You do it for someone's safety. Well, the fun aspect of this story is evacuations. And if you've ever worked in attractions, evacuations are probably one of the funnest things that you get to do. Not because the ride broke down, but it's just different from the norm. And you go into these procedures that are all trained, but you get to go out in the ride building. So he talked about seeing the mummy with the lights on. Rock and roller coaster, I've been on that thing several times with the lights on, and I've walked around inside of it because I've had to evac guests off of it. Space Mountain too, I've been around in that one too. But rock and roller coaster, so we had to walk all the way down that launch tunnel, which is not, to get up to 60 miles an hour, that's quite a distance.
Yeah.
And so we had to walk all the way down. You have to evac all those people. There's procedures for this. But I just loved that the other load girl, when we went down there, she went up to that little girl and she said, we had to stop the ride because of you. I told you not to do it, and you did it. And it was just so funny. And we had to evacuate all of these guests off because they went from 0 to 60 and then stopped instantly because some little girl couldn't hold the restraint properly. She was, and by little, she was probably like 13 or 14. Like she wasn't little.
Brats.
Yeah, she was just a brat. And it was just funny because everybody on the train was so upset at this girl. They knew she had screwed up their ride.
I wouldn't be upset because that would be like one of those things that doesn't happen regularly.
Right.
So,
Well, and they got to see inside. Well, and then someone tried to call 911 as we were evacuating off.
Goodness.
So he's on the phone as we're trying to get him out of the train. And he just called on his cell phone. So it went to like a dispatch station in Georgia. So he doesn't even know where the guy's calling from. And so they're trying to get the information. And all he said was, I'm stuck on this ride at Disney World and they won't let me off. And we're like, sir, we're evacuating you.
We actually had somebody do that at Spider-Man.
So you're fine. And Reedy Creek was there as far as Disney's emergency services. So there was, even if the 911 operator had dispatched anybody, they were already at the attraction. So anyways, that's one story for you. And that's the evac at Rock and Roller Coaster. Because some little girl can't hold her restraint properly.
Nice. No, we actually had somebody at Spider-Man one time. Side story. But they actually did call 911 because the ride did stop. And even though we're feeling, like saying all the announcements and everything,
yeah.
This lady called and they called over the radio for us, and I was the lead on duty, and they're like, hey, just want to make you aware, there's somebody that called 911, and the reason was that they're stuck up in like New York City in a building. And they're like, wait, what? So they were able to trace it back after trying to get all the details, and they're like, well, we're in Orlando, but we're in a ride, and now we're all the way in New York City. So this lady thought that this was legit happening. So then when I pop up on the vehicle, they're like, how are you standing up here? And I'm like, you're literally just 2 feet off the ground. There's
It's
nothing.
like
You're not up.
you stopped in a break zone. Like these rides are designed
They stop in
to,
sections.
to stop you safely so that we can evac you and fix things.
But anyways, so another story of mine, which I'm just gonna keep it with the Spider-Man theme today. And talking about downtimes, we at Spider-Man every single time like the vehicle stops, they do stop in different sections, and everything kind of goes quiet. So there's no audio. The only audio that you hear is just the ones from the control booth, which that's us saying, "Please remain seated. We'll begin moving vehicles immediately." Blah 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 blah. All that stuff that you hear. But the fun thing about those times is if you're ever like a lead or supervisor or anything, and this was back a few years back, I don't even think that they allow this anymore. We were able to walk the catwalks up above the whole entire ride track, and like as a lead, of course. And we were able to look down into the ride and see the whole entire ride as all the vehicles are moving and profiling. That's what we call it, as we're moving around every single scene and doing everything, which is really neat because you see how all the effects work and how everything resets after every single car that goes by, like every 30 seconds. So it's like wall goes down, wall comes right back up, and then it just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. But the only thing that's bad about it is if there's a downtime and you're up there, they will be able to hear you that you're up there. So one time we were walking up, and I was pointing out some effects to some people that I was training, and out of nowhere the ride just stops. And it was just a complete e-stop. It wasn't even like a show stop where some things kind of keep moving and others don't. Complete e-stop, lights come on, they call me, and of course I'm lead on duty, so I had to answer, and then next thing I know, people from down below, they just look up and they're like, "There's people up there, we hear you!" So now we have to book it from all the way up from the roof through all this like maze thing and making sure that we don't end up on the active ride track to be able to make it back into controls and create, figure out what's going on and get the ride moving then. So that was actually a lot of fun. Every time those things happen, I enjoy it.
That is cool. I have a couple of other stories. We're probably going to have to do another episode on fun theme park working stories because we both have quite a few.
We can literally just keep going all night.
We could keep going. But that catwalk story reminded me of some fun stories. I didn't actually work at Alien Encounter before it was Stitch at the Magic Kingdom. But Alien Encounter had a catwalk above it.
Alien Encounter.
And one of the sequences as far as that show was concerned was one of the Tomorrowland ops people would go out with the flashlight. If you ever went on Alien Encounter at the Magic Kingdom, it's an old attraction. It's a closed attraction. Now it was Stitch. Stitch is now closed. There's rumors for other attractions in that space. But Stitch was never really a good replacement for it. It was basically the same attraction, but with a different alien, and it didn't work as well. But Alien Encounter initially was scary, and it was intense, and it was made for adults, and people said, oh, Walt Disney wouldn't like it. But Walt Disney, he liked putting people in weird situations, so I think he would have been okay with it. But once... I had friends that worked in Tomorrowland. I originally started in Main Street operations in the Magic Kingdom, and I had friends that worked in Tomorrowland, and one day after work I went over to Alien Encounter, and we went up and we went out on the catwalk, and we would... There was a sequence where the person would come out and they were supposedly the tech, and it was part of the show, and you would move the flashlight around, and it was somewhat choreographed or rehearsed or trained as far as the ops person, as far as, okay, I point the light here, and then I go over in this corner and I stand here. And but we went out once, and the person was like, this is what I like to do because it keeps me going, and they got a little extra water in a cup because at one point the tech gets torn apart by the alien, and the water would splash down pretending to be blood or whatever, and so you'd be in the harness under it being like, someone's getting torn apart above me. But they would go out with extra water and dump it down.
I mean, they'll grab a bucket.
And they would find a target because you could see down but they couldn't see you the way the lighting was. It was funny, but that wasn't really the story I wanted to tell, but I told it, so there you go. breaking the rules
Yeah.
at Disney years ago. Years ago.
I
That,
mean-
that was almost 20 years ago. Good heavens.
I mean, every single theme park employee breaks the rules at one point or another.
Or they push the boundaries. I mean, for the most part, you're still creating great experiences because that's the whole point of theme parks, but it's hard for the employees that are working there. I mean, it can be stressful.
Mhm.
You've got thousands of people, and it's busy every day. You're working a lot of hours, and but it's there's a lot of cool things that happen in theme parks. A lot of cool things, especially for those that work there. And to wrap up, I'm going to tell you one more quick story, and this is a good happy one. Jose wasn't expecting this. This is the one I was going to tell, and then I told the alien encounter one. But years ago, I was a parade coordinator at the Magic Kingdom, and I was one of the coordinators for the Halloween parade. This was probably 2006. So it's been a while. But that year, I was a coordinator for it, and I was stationed at the bridge. So the bridge between the Castle Hub into Liberty Square, there's a wooden bridge there, and there's an area on the pavement where the coordinator would stand. And if there's any issues with the parade, you can pull off characters and drop them into the tunnel there, or whatever. But we would take out this extra bin of these bags of candy, because in the parade was these characters called Treat Squad at the end. And there was like 20 people, and they just have bags of candy that they would pass out to the kids and families as they went down parade route. Well, they would get one bag at the beginning of parade, and that would last them through Frontierland and Liberty Square, and then they'd grab a second bag at the bridge. And so we'd reel out this big cart of bags, and at the beginning of each night, one of the event managers or supervisors for the candy for the Halloween events would drop off a bin of all this candy. And we would put it in the bags and get it all ready for the parade. And I would always make sure I had a couple extra bags, because I would do this little act. I came up with this little act that year, and one of the coordinators picked up on it. Bill Dave, who you met, he did it the year after that. But so I loved doing it in front of the castle. And what I would do is I would take this bag and I would pretend like I was passing out the candy, because a lot of the ops people were doing that. They would, passing out little candy here and there to the kids for the Halloween parade. Well, I would go out with this big bag of candy that looked like it was overfilled, and I'd start passing it around. And then I'd be walking down the street, and I would pretend like I tripped, and the candy would spill all over the street, right there in the middle of the street in front of the castle. And everybody would be like, "Oh!" And then I'd be like, "I need some help cleaning this up, the parade's coming!" And all the kids would just run out and be like, and they would and the street would be cleaned in like 20 seconds. All the candy would be picked up, and and it was just fun, and it became this thing. And even Phil Holmes, the VP of the Magic Kingdom at the time, he came out one night just to watch it, because he had heard about this guy that spills candy in Castle Hub. And but it was fun. It was just something you do. You make quick little memories.
Yeah.
It looks like an accident, but it wasn't. I did it every night for every parade, and I had a blast. And it helped enhance that experience for the families that were watching it there, just because it was fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun. One time I did it on Main Street. Me and another guy, that same coordinator, Bill Dave, we did it on Main Street, and we both spilled it, and we had the kids run out in the middle of Main Street. It was fun. Like, I'm spilling candy in Main Street at Magic Kingdom. So that's my feel-good story to wrap up this evening. Yeah, I think that was a good episode.
That's all I got for now.
Cool. We'll have to do another episode on these fun theme park stories. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to show you the wine that we've enjoyed this evening. We're going to have an extra glass of this for Kim afterwards. But this is the Petite from the Michael David winery. And like I said, this is a mixture of the Petite Syrah grape and the Petite Verdot. Verdot, I guess, is the French pronunciation. You don't pronounce the T. But it's a good full-bodied wine, red wine. We do need to get into some white wines at some point. We had a Prosecco, but I'm not a huge white wine fan.
We can get into white wines at any
We'll do a
time.
white wine, and I'll explain to you why I don't like it. We have the wine lined up for our episode on Friday. So if you're around on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, go ahead and join us. We've got a nice barrel-aged red wine that we're going to enjoy. And from there, again, we're going to continue these on Mondays and Fridays. So go ahead and like and share and all that other great stuff. And thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Also, please go to our Welcome to San Jose on YouTube, at Welcome to San Jose. Go ahead and check out some of our new videos. I'm currently editing some videos for our trip that we took in November to Cozumel and to Chichen Itza. So we've got a lot of videos coming out of that and some other great stuff. So thank you so much for joining us. We are welcome to San Jose, and you have an amazing night.
Bye, guys.